Good morning! We're back for some more nature journaling. Oh no, what day is it? It's the 9th. Okay. Golly. And today we're going to continue birds by checking out the Cornell bird cams. We're at the Sapsucker Woods cam, which I have a link for that already in the description of this video. So if you want to pull it up and do some journaling along with me, or if you're like viewing this later, you can see what's going on that stream right now and journal whatever's happening then instead. But for now, what we're gonna do is try to journal some birds. I say that and then all the birds are gone, but it's gonna be fine. So this is kind of taking some of those skills that we have been practicing and putting it into like actual nature journaling today. Oh, and since I know not everybody has bird feeders, or oh hi chickadee, if you're like me, maybe your bird feeders don't attract birds on a super regular basis compared to something like this. This way we can all kind of see what's going on together and just enjoy. So yeah, here's oh, there's so many fun birds going on, and there's so many different ways to journal this kind of stuff. I think what I want to do today is focus on different bird behaviors, and I don't know, I guess we'll just see what happens and what I'm feeling like. One thing, since I've been sitting here watching this for a minute, that I think would be kind of cool is to like document maybe like which feeders the birds visit. I don't know how I would do that, but I'm just thinking about that in the back of my mind. And apart from that, yeah, I really don't have any plans here. So I'm just gonna watch these birds and figure out what I want to do. Well, hello, beautiful. That is a female blackbird, the brown-headed cowbird. Hello, lady. Oh, bye. It's funny, every once in a while they get startled and they fly off. And since I've been here this morning, I really haven't noticed anybody besides birds visiting, so no squirrels have managed to get onto the feeder, although that's always kind of fun. This is a really interesting feeder, too. It almost looks like just a log that has some holes drilled into it, so I wonder what that's about. Another thing I'm noticing is that there's a lot of fun bird songs going on in the background. So yeah, my brain's just kind of whirling, trying to figure out a game plan for what I want to journal. Gosh, these chickadees are fun. I really like the way that they sit on things. That might sound kind of weird, but okay, I'm gonna do that first. So I'm just gonna get my feeder here, and I'm using just a ballpoint pen today because I'm trying real hard not to get caught up in a bunch of details today. And the chickadee's already gone, but what I noticed was he keeps landing on these little feeders, the little like wires in the feeders, and grabs just the very tip of it, and then I noticed that his belly kind of was, his feet were centered with his belly, and they just kind of dangled there, you know what I mean? Like he didn't really brace his tail on anything, so he just kind of stood there like this and just kind of hung on there. And is that an accurate chickadee? No, but it's the best that I could do without my bird actually there. So this is where some of our bird drawing stuff that we practiced yesterday might come in handy to help you kind of fill in the blanks when the bird leaves. And I'm going to label this a chickadee since my bird actually left. And attempt to put a little feeder window on here. He just kind of hangs on the edge of the feeder. So notice again, like in my bid to kind of not get too fixated on details, I'm using a lot of angles to try and get the shapes down instead of trying to round out the shapes. That's just a personal preference that I've been trying to do when I practice sketching nature stuff. But also my ballpoint pen. Oh my gosh, look at this little woodpecker. That's a hairy. They look a lot like Downy Woodpeckers, but notice he's pretty big compared to these guys. And look how long his beak is compared to his head. That's a pretty big little dude. Oh my gosh. And he's actually, okay, kind of hanging on there like the chickadee did, except, I'm gonna get his little feet here. He's actually bracing his tail on that. So I'm gonna get just like, there's our little hairy woodpecker. So hard to do moving birds, but that's why we are practicing. Moving anything, really, but practice, practice, practice. And not caring about whether it looks pretty, because this is just about getting it down. And then he's gone, so it's a good thing we were sketching pretty quickly there. Yes, David, please get yourself a bird feeder. And it won't, you know, attract birds immediately or anything, but the longer you have it up, the more likely it is to get them. Actually, the best time to have bird feeders out is winter. And about right now is when our hummingbirds are coming back, and it's a great idea to get some hummingbird feeders out. So I'm going to write hairy woodpecker over here. But hey, the nice thing about those of us who are stuck without like very populated or used bird feeders is that we have Cornell Lab of Ornithology bailing us out here with some cool birds. And here's our hairy. He's back again. Wait, that might be a downy. I'm not crazy. It is definitely a different bird because the last one had the red on the back of his head. Oop. So it's not the same individual. I think this one's a Downy Woodpecker. Notice how it's just, its body size is way smaller. It's similar to a chickadee compared to this cardinal. And then the beak, instead of being like about the length of the head, it's quite a bit shorter. So that's a Downy Woodpecker. Fun. We get both of these species here in Kansas. This is in Ithaca, New York, so it's a little bit of a different environment. But these are all birds that we've seen so far. Very common in Wichita, Kansas, too. Cool, so hairy woodpecker. I'm gonna add black-capped chickadee because I like to be very specific with my AOU certified bird names. But anyway, so there's our hairy woodpecker. And unlike the chickadee, which does not brace on the feeder, I noticed that this little hairy woodpecker was using his stiff woodpecker feathers, tail feathers, to brace. Which is actually, if you ever have an opportunity, like at an educational program or something, to feel woodpecker feathers, they really are stiff. It's pretty noticeable, and that's why. And they also kind of have like a shape like this on the edge of the feather, on the tail feathers. It's just this real rigid line going through it, and that's just extra bracing strength. Okay, well, I'm just going to watch these guys for a little bit and see what else I notice that strikes me and that I want to put in my journal. And see, again, by allowing ourselves to focus on the shapes and not really care about getting all the details perfect, if you wanted to go back, you could, look at a chickadee's markings and try to actually fill in the markings on the sky so it looks more like a chickadee. Same thing with the hairy woodpecker. So, yeah, shapes are more important. If you guys are journaling along at home, grab a sketchbook and pull up this stream. One of my favorite cams, I haven't checked in a while, but they have a petrel cam, and the little baby was so cute. It might be actually grown up by now. It's been a minute since I've looked at it. Since we are watching a live stream of the outdoors, while I'm kind of looking for more inspiration for the next entries here, I'm going to put some details about like the environment and the weather. So I'm going to write Ithaca, New York. pond surrounded by woods. So I'm just gonna put that detail on there. And it looks like it's a little bit overcast, but the weather isn't bad, so it's a bit overcast and windy. Oh, that's a red-winged blackbird calling back there. Okay, this is weird maybe, but one thing that's kind of striking me right now with this blackbird is that the center of gravity just seems like it's so far forward. I guess today's thing that's sticking out is birds' legs and how they just hang on to things and brace themselves against the wind and stuff. But there, just got too windy. Big old gust there. But you saw like his feet were all the way up by his chest, right? And then his little head was here, and then like the rest of the bird's body was hanging way out there. And I know sometimes their entire leg shape just kind of disappears into their feathers, so it's a bit hard to I guess like see exactly where their legs are. But that's something that makes it kind of hard to sketch birds out, and so maybe that's a good thing to try and capture. Of course, my bird's gone now. But I did get a look at what that looked like, so I'm just going to do a little rough sketch with my ballpoint pen here. There's my bird's head. And then his feet were like all the way up here. And then there was his little rump and his tail went off that way. And then there's the edge of the feeder. Cool. So there's my little red-winged blackbird sketch. I just liked the way that his feet were just so far forward, and it's like, I guess it really shows off the weird sort of weight and balance that birds have that separates them out a bit from other animals. Just, I don't know. Their legs are all the way back there, and then they can sit like this and be perfectly balanced. I'm going to make a note of, oops, I did not finish writing his name in there. Let's try to get those shadows out of your way. And, oh, look, a dove joined us. Okay. Just made a note about, I just liked his feet being so far forward. Cool. Let's keep watching. Oh, look at our little Harry. He's back. Oh, I liked the way his like skirts, his tail feathers were all fanned out. That was pretty cool. If he comes back down and does that again, that'd be cool to see, because that was so different from when he was sitting on the feeder earlier like this. There's one of our female red-winged blackbirds. Gosh, doves just have such weird shaped heads. Welcome, we're enjoying the Sapsucker Woods feeder cam, and we're just journaling some of the birds that we see here. And if you're just joining us, I like using ballpoint pens because it helps me not focus on whether all the details are perfect. And today I'm trying to journal maybe some behaviors and other different things that I noticed just by watching the feeders. So I don't really care if it looks absolutely perfect. Not that you should care when you're nature journaling in general anyway, because that's not the point. But this just helps get the point across. Oh, we've got a new bird here. This is a grackle. Oh, he's just shoveling. That is so funny. He's just shoveling seeds out. Why are you doing that? I don't know why he's doing that. It's pretty rude, and I'm going to journal it. Because that's just so funny. Okay, so I'm going to get the angle of his head here, his little shoulders. Here's his little tail and his little thing that he's sitting on. Wow, what a rude bird. So he's just kind of doing this number, and just here I'm going to do like a little dotted line going over here to show his head going out like this. And and he's just chucking seeds out. That's so rude. Oh, that's funny. Wow. I wonder what he's trying to get at. Like, is there a specific kind of seed that he's trying to get at? And, you know, we're journaling here, so I'm going to write my question on my entry here. Is he trying to find his favorite seed? Wow, rude. Just gonna put that note in there because I thought that was hilarious. Just chucking seeds out. Gosh, mean bird. And I'm gonna just shade him in with my ballpoint pen so that it's more obvious. Like, this is the bird. And then he's just chucking seeds out the window. And I'll just write his name in. That was a common crackle. Quick sketches, quick sketches. Is there anything that you guys are noticing that you're wanting to put in your journals that I haven't? This would be a really fun exercise to see what other people were noticing and journaling. Because that's what makes this, like, we can all watch the exact same stream at the exact same time and our journals could look completely different. And I just like adding little bubbles sometimes to help separate out my different writings when they end up being too close to each other. So I'm just going to put little bubbles around the bird names so that it stands out a bit more. Who's making that sound? Is that the J? Oh, it totally is the J. It just, I think maybe the microphone is picking it up weird, or he's making a weird sound. But you could see him bobbing just then at the very top of the screen when he was doing that. Oh, that was look at this blackbird. He's got some real rough looking feathers. I bet he's a young bird from last year that's still molting. Molting to get his, like, adult plumage in. Gosh, blue jays are gorgeous birds, aren't they? I think blue jays are one of those birds that we here in Kansas and other places that have them kind of take for granted because, ooh, there he goes. They're just spectacular, and I hear a lot of people who don't have blue jays in their regions comment about them a lot when they get to see them in person. That's why you should never ignore common birds. They're cool. You're just desensitized to how cool they are because you see them all the time. Okay, well, we have no birds left. So we're going to keep watching, and we're just going to look for other fun behaviors. And if you are struggling to jot down the little images of these birds as quickly as they appear and are gone, I would highly encourage you to try using a ballpoint pen or some other kind of pen, something that, like, stops you from erasing and just fixating on those little tiny details. Or try drawing smaller images or something. Oh, look! We've got a red-bellied woodpecker. Wait a minute. Or something. Here's our downy back. I'm second-guessing myself because now I'm thinking, are there other woodpeckers that Ithaca would have that we don't? Because I know there's several birds that look quite similar to red-bellied woodpeckers, and I'm not recalling ever seeing a mark on their beak like that, but maybe it's just because I've never sat down and drawn them, so maybe that's just a different species that I haven't noticed, or a feature on this common species that I just haven't noticed before. So I'm going to go ahead and just journal that. I like how his forehead kind of goes into his beak almost. And since I'm really more interested in getting the feature on this guy's head, I'm not going to bother drawing the rest of his body. I'm just going to draw the part of the bird that I'm seeing. Down here in Texas, Anna says she never gets to see blue jays. Aw, yeah, see, they're so cool. Welcome, Jennifer. See, Richard's saying hi, and I don't see you on my screen, but I'll say hi to you. Okay, so yeah, there's our little red-bellied guy. And I'm going to make a note here, I'm just going to make a little abbreviation, red-bellied woodpeckers have this mark? Or is this a different species? I don't know, for all my bird watching friends out there, like there's often common birds like that are really easy to identify in our area. And so you just never look that closely at little features like that because, you know, it's not something that you might use to identify it or get the species. Like I know flickers have a huge variety in the different colorations and markings that they have on their face. And a lot of that has to do with whether they're the yellow shafted or the red shafted flickers and whether they're male or female. So that's why there's such a huge variety in their shapes on their faces. But I also know that I've seen like, what is it, golden-backed woodpeckers, or there's a lot of other woodpeckers similar to this. So anyway, we'll just make a note of that, and that'll remind me later on today to look that up. I will go ahead and make a note that these are red markings, and then shade them in just a little bit so I can see that those are specific markings. Cool. If anybody happens to know these answers too, like feel free to make a note of that. Okay, let's keep watching and see what else we find. Oh, look, a female cardinal. Did you guys know that female cardinals sing? I totally had like a little lecture about bird songs where I mentioned that, but they're really well documented. You can find videos of them singing, and the songs are very similar to the males. There needs to be more research on it, and there's currently efforts going on to learn more about female bird song in these species. But yeah. Oh, that little sucker just flew in there. Did you see that? Where did he come from? He just like flew in from the side. I wish I could see what was around these feeders. Gosh, that's funny. That explains why all the birds took off. Golden-fronted woodpeckers. Thank you, Anna. Okay. And see, they look, at least from a distance, the golden-fronted woodpeckers, they look pretty similar in some respects to red-bellied. I mean, more like a red-bellied than a, I don't know, downy woodpecker or something. Or a sapsucker. Yeah, cool. Well, we have a squirrel now, so I guess I'm gonna sketch the squirrel. Boop. A little scoundrel. Unintended bird feeder resident. And I am gonna, well, I was gonna say I'll use some round markings to draw this little squirrel, but actually he has some good lines, some good angles, so I'm gonna go ahead and draw those angles. I kind of like how the fur like bulges out where his leg is, but it's not like super obvious that it's his leg. So I just put some little markings there to show it. And then I totally didn't put him in the right part of the tray, but that's fine. I like how his little tail is like just balancing on this feeder. Gosh, that's cute. Rude. All the birds are doing alarm calls around. Do you hear that? They're mad. Rude squirrel. Here, I'll just go ahead and expand this tray out there so it's a little more obvious. This has to be a squirrel's dream. This big old platform feeder. That was a chickadee alarm call. Chickadee-dee-dee-dee. Oh, there a little brave one flew in. Okay, wow, this guy just like flew in out of nowhere. Did you hear that? Ah, all the birds are doing alarms. I'm gonna do some little speech bubbles to show that the birds are mad. Chip, chip. Chickadee-dee. Squirrel jumped in out of nowhere. I like how this one little chickadee just keeps swooping in to come close, but like nobody wants to go closer to the squirrel. Why? It's not like the squirrel would do anything, but that is an interesting like behavior to notice, I guess. Now that I've said it out loud. Look at this little scoundrel. Squirrels are so weird. Look how long their toes are, you know? Like, they got these weird little hands. I'm gonna attempt to sketch his little face. If you notice that squirrels basically have no facial expressions, they always look the same. I actually watched a Deep Look episode on YouTube. It's a PBS series where they talked with some researchers that studied squirrel behaviors, and they were looking at the importance of body language in terms of tail movements and stuff for squirrel communication. And they specifically pointed out that, and we totally lost his little toes, but I'm going to attempt to draw his long toes over here on the edge. Anyway, they pointed out that they don't even have muscles in their face to emote in any way. So all of their body language communication comes from their tail for the most part. But I think it's pretty common for squirrels in general. Like prairie dogs are a ground squirrel. Yeah, and Richard, you know, I think one of my favorite quotes, and I'm not going to actually be able to quote it verbatim, but I've heard it said that as much time, energy, and money you are willing to spend on keeping squirrels out, squirrels are always like willing to spend a little bit more time and ingenuity to figure out how to outdo you. So it's like, I don't know, I tend to recommend to people who are complaining to me about squirrels that they just give the squirrels a different feeder and enjoy them, because what else are you supposed to do? You just gotta enjoy them. Squirrel jumped in out of nowhere. And man, the birds are mad. They're all quarreling outside the frame. I'm gonna make a note of that. Well, that sounds like another squirrel, actually. Maybe somebody's mad that they can't get in there and join him. Birds quarreling. Birds and squirrel quarreling out of frame. Did you see that little chickadee just come down and grab that little seed and fly off? That's so funny. Oh, I'm gonna try and add that little chickadee in here. One brave little chickadee stole a seed. Chickadees tend to be really bold compared to other birds. They're usually the first ones to start bird mobs when they find birds of prey that they want to mob and chase out. Oh gosh. One brave chickadee stole a seed and flew off. Oh, a titmouse! They're actually related to chickadees. They're in the same little family. And the titmouse and tits, which mostly come or live in like European countries, like England, think of blue tits and great tits. Those birds, yeah, they're all in the same family. So chickadees are kind of like the American blue tit. They have much more, or many more relatives across the pond than they do here. I've seen some people make like really creative arrows that are really fun, like big bold blocks with like little emphatic markings there. I like those kinds of fun arrows. You can have a lot of fun with diagrams when you're journaling. One of these days I want to do like a color mapping thing. Oh, look at this cardinal way off in the background. Now we're actually able to see some of the birds that are scolding the squirrel off the camera. Anyway, I've totally forgotten what I was saying, but yeah. Oh, yeah, I want to do a color mapping sort of thing. Because, like, you can take, like, a scene, and instead of trying to paint a whole scene, if you're journaling and you're trying to keep moving and you're trying to be quick and stuff, you can make, like, a pie chart or something and just say, like, okay, on this hillside, like, here's the percentage of all the different colors that are out there. And maybe if there's, like, a little sliver of red, you can make an arrow and say, like, oh, it's because of the butterfly milkweed that's out there or something like that. But there's some really creative ways to diagram things in journals to get that information down. Hey, Jen, welcome. We're journaling the feeder cam from Cornell. And, yeah, we're just gonna sit here and continue watching and see if we find anything else that we want to journal. This squirrel's just having a heyday. Oh, my coffee's cold again, dang it. Maybe one thing I can do while... Ooh, well, hey there! Wow, this jay looks too big for the feeder, huh? I wonder if he's gonna start shoveling seed out like that grackle did. No, he's actually eating it. He or she, they look fairly similar. I don't know how to tell them apart. I know for some birds, like robins, there are some small differences, so I would be curious to know if there were small differences in the sexes in blue jays too. Gosh, this little nut job. I know that was dumb, sorry. Just kidding, I'm not sorry for my bad jokes. Okay. Well, he's just continuing to go to town out there, isn't he? Squirrels are so weird. I mean that in like a very love them sort of way. You know what I mean? They're just, the more you look at them, the more it's like, what are you? You just look so strange. And then the more you look at every other squirrel species, wow, sorry, the more you're like, wow, all squirrels just have the same weird face. Aw, you were feeding critters at work and watching birds in the park? I mean, that sounds like a pretty good use of time, Jen. So, like, honestly, time well spent. Great job. I have the urge to ask you all the questions about how y'all are doing out there, but I don't want to make you have to tell me about your life and your nature center on a live stream. But yeah, I wonder how everything's going. If you want to share, we've got a lot of, like, all of our people are still working, so we have a lot of help with our animal care. We've got 3 of our seasonal people working on animal care, so they can continue to get hours, because not everybody has the same ability to work from home and stuff. But it's nice that we're able to split up that work. Look at his little tail, just all curled up. Man, these chickadees are just not terribly bold. The blue jay sure is. Yeah, see, there's our red-winged blackbirds, and they were here the whole beginning of our stream, and only now are they starting to come back after the squirrel showed up. Like, why? Are they just afraid of the squirrels? Is it because they're so hefty compared to them that the squirrel could beat them up? Would a squirrel beat a bird up if it came in to get seeds? I don't know. Maybe the birds just aren't willing to take that risk. Of all the geese in the background. Oh, he left! Okay, that was cute. I'm gonna make a little note that he exited the screen. I'm gonna make a fun arrow like some of our nature journalers from the national group do. Jumped at camera to leave. Cute. Okay, well, we'll see who else joins our stream. Yeah, okay, I'm glad. It is weird, you know, for us too. We're not having field trips and stuff. It's so strange. There's no visitors in the lobby, and we've had a lot of people messaging us on Facebook and Instagram and stuff, asking questions. And somebody messaged us yesterday, and their child was doing a report on some of our animals because They missed seeing our animals and learning about them and stuff. And Richard, you're here. They had a toy from the gift shop of their favorite animal, and it was really cute. What else? Oh, there's our little guy back. I bet that's Jen. Do all red-bellied woodpeckers have this little mark on the front of their face, or is this some other species? Because I've never noticed it before, and I think it's just because I've never had to notice it before. I would just Google it, but I'm in the middle of a live stream. It's kind of like, we have a bird listserv that people email on, and a long time ago, somebody sent a message asking about some female coloration patterns on ducks, and whether it was a molt or a normal color, because the field guides didn't have this mark. And there's, yeah, anytime I look more closely at a bird I think I've seen a million times, it's like, wow, there's stuff on this bird that I've never noticed before, just because it hasn't come up. Jay. Doves are so weird. I like their little legs. They have such short, stubby legs compared to so many of these birds we've seen so far. Oh, he's bullying the mourning dove. That's so rude. Okay, well, I don't know how I would journal that, but it feels journal worthy. Look at this little dove just hunkered down like, I'm gonna get bullied too. They're so wary of these other birds. Gosh, grackles are jerks. Hey, after journaling our meadowlarks yesterday, are you guys noticing how similar these other blackbirds' beaks are? Aha! Blackbird beaks. Okay, well, I think I'm gonna try and journal this little cowering dove over here, because I think it's funny that it's just like got its little rump sticking out of the tray. And there's where its feathers disappear in there. Okay. And then its wings kind of come up in a fun way. I don't know. Does that make sense? That wasn't really a sentence. It was just... And of course I've ended up drawing this actually bigger than it is. That's okay. Little bird, hunkered down. They have big foreheads. Beep. This is not turning out accurate. That's okay. There we go. Mourning dove. And these guys are mourning doves as in like they are mourning the loss of something, not mourning as in they sing first thing in the morning. Oh, that's really cool, Jen. the jays that will mimic hot calls to get those squirrels to leave. That's so fun. That's a really cool, like, journal entry. I'm just saying. Morning dove. Scared. Maybe scared isn't the right word. That feels a bit like, I don't know, wary. Wary of the jays and grackle. Look at their little toes. They have some fun shapes on their face, these little mourning doves. That's not really a behavior, but and of course they keep turning around, but they just have like goodbye. Yeah, I don't know, they're just cool. And for my Kansas friends watching, the gray squirrels are in Kansas. They're just not nearly as common as the fox squirrels that we have around here. And this is New York again, so they are very common in New York. But all squirrels can have different colors too. Like there are several populations of fox squirrels in Kansas that have all black fur. And I think the gray squirrels actually have even more variation in color than the fox squirrels. That can be a little bit tricky. I've always thought it'd be kind of cool to have like a little black fox squirrel rug. Or any squirrel rug, to be honest. But they're just so pretty. My little ballpoint pen keeps about coming off. Well, I think I have enough space for maybe like one more little observation right here. And we've been spending quite a bit of time journaling these birds this morning, so I'll be satisfied when we've kind of finished up our observations here. Oh, look, here's our little guy back who's still molting in his adult plumage. So that's last year's baby. Man, grackles are way bigger than the red-winged blackbirds. Oh, starling! Our first starling this morning. I'm kind of impressed it's taken this long to find a starling. They are an invasive non-native species, of course. Released multiple times over the years, but originally released in New York, so how ironic. It's actually not ironic, it's very expected because they're everywhere. I don't know why I said that. Oh, jeez. I still think it was funny when this grackle just started chucking seeds out the side of this feeder. I've noticed that not very many people... Oops, I just rewound the live stream. Not very many of our birds are using this log except the woodpeckers. I mean, that's not terribly surprising, but just interesting to note. Have you guys noticed anybody using this one? I really haven't looked at that one either. Our white-breasted nuthatches posture, like, to make themselves look big and hold their wings bigger at the chipmunks to move them away from seeds they want. That's so cool! You really should video that, Jen. Jen lives down in southeast Kansas and, like, right by Missouri. Actually, I guess you technically live in Missouri, don't you? But, yeah, way down in the corner there, so, like, way more eastern than us here in Wichita. That's so cool. I love how we haven't seen a single Canada goose, but we can sure hear them honking up a storm over there. Oh, that's cool. Look, the starling is bracing his tail feathers on the feeder the way the woodpecker did. Okay, that's it. That's my last. Oh no, come back! Well, I'm going to attempt to draw it anyway, because that's what started this journey, and now we're coming full circle by sketching out another bird posture behavior hanging on something. Oh, wait. Here we go. Boom. Beautiful. I don't know if I can do this without the starling actually there, but we're going to try. So I noticed that the bird's shape was very triangular when it was up there, and I'm sorry the bird is no longer there. So I'm gonna have to go off my memory, and I guess so are you. Sorry. Loud birds. And there's our starling's tail, and then boom, it that was very dramatic just for drawing a tail. It's got a tail balancing on there too. And these cute little pink legs. That's approximately a starling. And since I didn't have the actual bird to reference, that's why it's so nice to be able to just label things in your nature journal. Aha. Okay, and it has little pink feet. And a bright yellow beak. Not all of them have those features, depending on the time of year and the sex and stuff, so we'll just make those notes. And we're going to make a note that it's bracing against the feeder like a woodpecker. And Jen, at the very beginning, like the first thing I sketched out was I thought it was cool this little chickadee was like hanging on the side like a woodpecker would, but just it didn't balance its tail on anything at all. It just kind of hung there, and its tail just hung straight down, and I thought that was really funny. So that's where we're at. Well, that's where we started, and this is where we're at now. Okay. Oh, I didn't even finish this note. Bracing against feeder like a woodpecker. See, that's so cool. And you know what's really fun about like this kind of activity using your bird feeders and stuff is that a lot of us have bird feeders. We what am I saying? I lost my words. Oh, so a lot of us have feeders, and you can sit there and watch them, and it's really fun to watch them. But I guess journaling out what you're seeing gives you so much more motivation. It gives you like a purpose for being there and a reason to be making observations, and documenting them just helps you kind of cement those things too. Purpose. Did I say purpose? Purpose. It gives you purpose to be there. And I quite like that. And it's such an accessible resource because we've got wonderful bird feeders like this. Oh, and Jen is clarifying that she does in fact live in Kansas, but just barely. Okay, I know you go over the line quite a bit, so I wasn't 100% sure. But yeah, down in the Ozarks of Kansas, where all the cool salamanders are. Neat. Well, guys, that was really fun. I guess I'm satisfied with my journal entry for today. And we spent a good amount of time on this, so that was really fun. I am going to, maybe just as a last measure here, go through and separate out some of my little notes so that it's easier to see what belongs with what. Just to kind of polish it up a little bit for future Rachel when I'm looking through my journal and I'm like, what is happening? Cool. Oops. Somebody's mad. At one point I heard people's voices too while we were watching the stream. That was kind of cool. People hanging out. I was kind of worried at some point somebody would try to come refill the feeders or something, but they must have done that earlier this morning. Fun! Okay, guys. Well, I guess that's it. So thanks for joining me. That was sure a lot of fun. I am wishing now that I'd finished this little chickadee's markings, but that's okay. I'm pretty happy. That was great. If you guys want to keep journaling, or if you just keep watching the stream and journal new additional things, I would love to see what you guys observe and how you choose to document it in your entries, in your journals. So please, if you want to, share your photos. You can do that in the comment, or you can join our Nature Journal Club Facebook group. It's, if you want to search for it, it's GPNC Nature Journal Club. You can also just find it on our page. If you go to our group link, that's not a note for future Rachel, that's a note for you. And, yeah, you're welcome, Anna. It's sometimes hard for people to get out. And you know what's kind of nice about these virtual resources is that, you know, I know that there's a lot of people out there who have difficulties in getting outside for a number of non-pandemic related reasons, like mobility and health and maybe access to a natural area. Like you know, again, I could set up a feeder out there, but pretty much all I'll see is house sparrows. Would be really fun to watch, but you know, there's so many options out there for people who are struggling to get outside for whatever reason. So enjoy the outdoors here. Check out some other cams, because there's some really good ones. Anyway, yep, please share your entries. I'll post a picture of this in our Nature Journal Club Facebook group, and, oh, look, we have a Downy and a Hairy on the same screen. Look at that. Okay, we'll watch this before. Oh, well, okay, it's gone. But did you see that? That was a really good example of how different they are. So they had the longer beak on this little guy, that larger size, of course, and then, yeah, okay, well, that was fun. People ask us that all the time. Great. Feeder journaling is super awesome, and it's not a bias if you admit it, right? Is that how that works? I don't know. Okay, well, anyway, bye, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day. Keep journaling. Get outside, even if you have to do it virtually.